Okay, we're going to do a Java program that will use the if-else statements, if-else, on an object and in the object's fields. Because so far, we've just been writing driver programs that have if statements in them. Now we're going to write one that has an object or a class that we create, and the if statement's going to be inside of that class. So let's go ahead and get started. It looks like I shut down my Eclipse. Open that up. Going. And close the things we have open. Close it. Let's go ahead and create a new Java class, and we'll call this test scores. Now the first thing in our class are going to be our instance fields that will hold doubles. So the doubles are going to be private. We'll call them test 1, test 2, test 3. And right away we'll write our constructor that will initialize. Is there a initialize the instance fields. So keep in mind a constructor has the name of the class, so public test scores, and it's a method. Since we have 3 instance fields, we need to have 3, or we will have 3 parameters. And then we assign the instance fields equal to the parameter variable, or the local variable. Test 2 equals T2. This is T1, not test 3 equals T3. I'll go ahead and write, well, we don't even need accessor methods for these instance fields. Because what we're going to do is we're going to average these 3 scores and return a letter grade. So we'll write a method that does that. We're going to write a method that calculates the average of these 3 scores, and then based on the average returns a letter grade. So we will write a public method. It's going to return a char. It's going to return an A or a B or a C or a D or an F. And we'll say public char, that's the return data type, calc average, and this is airing out temporarily because it said it must return a char, which we're going to do. First we're going to do our calculation. We'll create a local variable that's local to the method, that is a double average is equal to, and here's our math. We'll say test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3 divided by 3.0. You can do 3. You see test 1 plus test 2 plus test 3, that's going to add up a double. And when you have a double divided by an integer, it'll implicitly cast this 3 into a 3.0. So 3 or 3.0 is fine. And we will say if average is less than 60, return the letter F. Else if average is less than 70. Return a D. This is not a Rankin Technical College grading scale, by the way. Else if AVG less than 80, return a C. Else if average is less than 90, return a B. Else if average is less than or equal to 100, return an A. And a trailing else, don't forget your semicolon, a trailing else that will return a question mark in case none of these are true. For example, if they have a 101 or something, 385, something silly. Return a question mark. And there you have it. Now we're going to create a driver program. We're going to create a driver program next that will instantiate a test scores object that will set the instance fields through the constructor, through the use of the constructor, and then calculate the average and return a letter grade for the average score. Real quick, I'll put in this comment. Calc average method will calculate the average of 3 test scores and return a letter grade. Return the appropriate letter grade. So now we go ahead and add our driver, new Java class. We'll call it test scores driver. Because it's a driver, we know it has a main method, which you know by now is where the program will start. And we are going to be asking for input from the user, so we'll import Java util scanner. And we'll instantiate a scanner object. And time to ask for the test scores. System out print line. Please enter your first score. Please enter your score on test 1. And we'll store that again in a double. Although, if your first score was a 90, I guess you can get half points. So it makes sense to score them in a double. Double, we'll say test 1 equals keyboard dot next double. Watch how fast you can do this if you copy and paste. This will be 2, that'll be 3. We'll just change a few values. Test 2, test 2, test 3, test 3. Now we have variables that are storing the 3 test scores. And we will create a test scores object. Now that we know the values, we can pass these values into our constructor. We'll say test scores for the first student. Student 1 equals new test scores. We're used to leaving it blank, but we can't do that anymore unless we modify our test scores class. We need to pass in test 1, test 2, and test 3. Now we'll do a system out print line. your current letter grade after 3 tests is a I guess it could be an and plus we'll say student 1 dot calc average, which will return a letter grade. Now if I did that too fast, I might have had a logical error, but let's take a look. As a matter of fact, yeah, let's just take a look. I'll comment later. Run it real quick. Please enter your score on test 1. Let's say I did really poorly on all 3 tests. I got a 50, 68, and a 64. Says your current letter grade after 3 tests is a D. Well, let me double check my math here. If I got a 50 plus a 68 plus a 64, 182 divided by a 3 would be a 60.6%, which would fall in. It is in fact above a 60, so it's a less than a 70 but above a 60, so returning a letter D is correct. So I did get the correct output on that example. Let's try a few more. Let's give them some good grades. 100, 85, and a 90. Your current letter grade after 3 tests is an A. Let's double check our math. Clear that up. 100 plus 85 plus 90 divided by 3, 91.6. Come over here. It's not less than 60. No, no. It's not less than 90. It is less than our 100, so we returned an A. Let's give it a return a question mark and just look at what the output would be. I think if we give some ridiculous numbers here, if they got a 500 on the first test, 351, 897, that's not valid, so it's going to say is a question mark. We'll learn some input validation in a later chapter to make sure that the numbers aren't too high or outside of a given range, so they could not be able to do this. Thanks for watching.